Judaism. According to Josephus, the Queen of Sheba was the queen of Egypt and Ethiopia and brought to Israel the first specimens of the balsam, which grew in the Holy Land in the historian's time. Josephus represents Cambyses as conquering the capital of Ethiopia and changing its name from Seba to Meroe. Josephus affirms that the Queen of Sheba or Saba came from this region, and that it bore the name of Saba before it was known by that of Meroe. There seems also some affinity between the word Saba and the name or title of the kings of the Ethiopians, Sabako. The Talmud insists that it was not a woman but a kingdom of Sheba that came to Jerusalem. Baba Bathra 15b. Whoever says Maketh Sheba means a woman is mistaken. It means the kingdom of Sheba. This is explained to mean that she was a woman who is not in her position because of being married to the king, but through her own merit. The most elaborate account of the queen's visit to Solomon is given in the Targum Sheni to Esther. Ahupu informed Solomon that the kingdom of Sheba was the only kingdom on earth not subject to him and that its queen was a sun worshipper. He thereupon sent it to Kedar in the land of Sheba with a letter attached to its wing commanding its queen to come to him as a subject. She thereupon sent him all the ships of the sea loaded with precious gifts and 6,000 youths of equal size, all born at the same hour and clothed in purple garments. They carried a letter declaring that she could arrive in Jerusalem within 3 years, although the journey normally took 7 years. When the queen arrived and came to Solomon's palace, thinking that the glass floor was a pool of water, she lifted the hem of her dress, uncovering her legs. Solomon informed her of her mistake and reprimanded her for her hairy legs. She asked him 3 or, according to the Midrash, more riddles to test his wisdom. A Yemenite manuscript entitled Midrash HaHifez gives 19 riddles, most of which are found scattered through the Talmud and the Midrash, which the author of the Midrash HaHifez attributes to the Queen of Sheba. Most of these riddles are simply Bible questions, some not of a very edifying character. The 2 that are genuine riddles are: without movement while living, it moves when its head is cut off, and produced from the ground, man produces it, while its food is the fruit of the ground. The answer to the former is a tree, which, when its top is removed, can be made into a moving ship. The answer to the latter is a wick. The rabbis who denounce Solomon interpret 1 Kings 10 verse 13 as meaning that Solomon had criminal intercourse with the Queen of Sheba, the offspring of which was Nebuchadnezzar, who destroyed the temple. According to others, the sin ascribed to Solomon in 1 Kings 11 verse 7 etc. is only figurative. It is not meant that Solomon fell into idolatry, but that he was guilty of failing to restrain his wives from idolatrous practices. The alphabet of Sirach avers that Nebuchadnezzar was the fruit of the union between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. In the Kabbalah, the Queen of Sheba was considered one of the queens of the demons and is sometimes identified with Lilith, first in the Targum of Job and later in the Zohar and the subsequent literature. A Jewish and Arab myth maintains that the queen was actually a jinn, half human and half demon. In Ashkenazi folklore, the figure merged with the popular image of Helen of Troy or the Frau Venus of German mythology. Ashkenazi incantations commonly depict the Queen of Sheba as a seductive dancer. Until recent generations, she was popularly pictured as a snatcher of children and a demonic witch. Islamic. The Temple of Awam or Maram Bilqis, sanctuary of the Queen of Sheba, is a Sabaean temple dedicated to the principal deity of Saba, Al-Makka, near Marib, in what is now Yemen. After scouting nearby lands, a bird known as the Hudhud, Hupu, returns to King Solomon relating that the land of Sheba is ruled by a queen. In a letter, Solomon invites the Queen of Sheba, who like her followers had worshipped the sun, to submit to God. She expresses that the letter is noble and asks her chief advisors what action should be taken. They respond by mentioning that her kingdom is known for its might and inclination towards war. However, that the command rests solely with her. In an act suggesting the diplomatic qualities of her leadership, she responds not with brute force, but by sending her ambassadors to present a gift to King Solomon. He refuses the gift, declaring that God gives far superior gifts and that the ambassadors are the ones only delighted by the gift. King Solomon instructs the ambassadors to return to the queen with a stern message that, if he travels to her, he will bring a contingent that she cannot defeat. The queen then makes plans to visit him at his palace. Before she arrives, King Solomon asks several of his chiefs who will bring him the Queen of Sheba's throne before they come to him in complete submission. An Ifrit first offers to move her throne before King Solomon would rise from his seat. However, a man with knowledge of the scripture instead has her throne moved to King Solomon's palace in the blink of an eye, at which King Solomon exclaims his gratitude towards God as King Solomon assumes this is God's test to see if King Solomon is grateful or ungrateful. King Solomon disguises her throne to test her awareness of her own throne, asking her if it seems familiar. She answers that during her journey to him, her court had informed her of King Solomon's prophethood, and since then she and her subjects had made the intention to submit to God. King Solomon then explains that God is the only God that she should worship, not to be included alongside other false gods that she used to worship. Later, the Queen of Sheba is requested to enter a palatial hall. Upon first view, she mistakes the hall for a lake and raises her skirt to not wet her clothes. King Solomon informs her that it is not water, rather it is smooth slabs of glass. Recognizing that it was a marvel of construction which she had not seen the likes of before, she declares that in the past she had harmed her own soul but now submits, with King Solomon, to God. The story of the Queen of Sheba in the Quran shares some similarities with the Bible and other Jewish sources. Some Muslim commentators, such as Al-Tabari, Al-Zamakhshari, and Al-Baidawi supplement the story. Here they claim that the queen's name is Bilqis, probably derived from Greek, Palakis or the Hebraized Pilgash, concubine. The Quran does not name the queen, referring to her as a woman ruling them, the nation of Sheba. According to some, he then married the queen, while other traditions say that he gave her in marriage to a king of Hamdan. According to the scholar Al-Hamdani, the Queen of Sheba was the daughter of El-Shahrayadib, the Sabaean king of South Arabia. In another tale, she is said to be the daughter of a jinni, or peri, and a human. According to E. Ullendorf, the Quran and its commentators have preserved the earliest literary reflection of her complete legend, which among scholars complements the narrative that is derived from a Jewish tradition, this assuming to be the Targum Sheni. However, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica, Targum Sheni is dated to around 700. Similarly, the general consensus is to date Targum Sheni to late 7th or early 8th century, which postdates the advent of Islam by almost 200 years. Furthermore, M.J. Berdichevsky explains that this Targum is the earliest narrative articulation of the Queen of Sheba in Jewish tradition. Yoruba. The Yoruba Ijibo clan of Ijibuode, Nigeria, claims that she was a wealthy, childless noblewoman of theirs known as Oloi Belikis-Asungbo. They also assert that a medieval system of walls and ditches, known as the Eredo and built sometime around the 10th century CE, was dedicated to her. After excavations in 1999, the archaeologist Patrick Darling, known as the architect, was quoted as saying, "I don't want to overplay the Sheba theory, but it cannot be discounted. The local people believe it, and that's what is important." The most cogent argument against it at the moment is the dating.